Inspired by a true story, Kangaroo is in cinemas across the UK. I've at long last seen it. Let's talk. Hey stranger, welcome back to the video, a brand new movie reviews. Today I'm talking all about Kangaroo, which is in cinemas across the UK right now. I have finally seen it. Before we start talking about it, as always, a friendly reminder, these are just my thoughts. Don't let this dictate whether or not you go and see it. You might see it, feel totally differently to me. That's okay. Movie's not made to cater for everyone. Without any further ado, let's start talking about this film. I was quite excited to see this film. It's made by the same studio that made the 3 Paddington films. I love Paddington. And not gonna lie, I do like a lot of what I feel like I'm gonna say it wrong. StudioCanal? Yeah, I think that's how you say it. I like a lot of what they produce. We Live in Time, I love that film. All of the Paddington films, love all 3. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm quite fond of what they make as a studio. So I was excited to see this film. And I always really like films that are loosely based or directly based or literally exactly based on true stories. I find it just a little bit more enjoyable, and I think when I'm watching this film or any film that is based on a true story, I'm like, the fact that this is really this is real and has really happened always never fails to amaze me, let's put it that way. And I think because of that I enjoyed it a little bit more. I was really excited for it and I think this is a nice watch, but it has its flaws for me, I think. I thought some of the acting every now and again was a little bit, kind of hard to watch. So I was like, it's clear that you're acting, and I'm not a fan of some of the acting choices you're making, shall we say, which did sort of put me off a little bit. Some of the CGI for the kangaroos are very, you can tell that it's not a real kangaroo. And obviously, it's fairly obvious that a kangaroo that is going to be kicking this actor is not real. We all knew it was going to be CGI or some sort of edited in, but when it's very obvious like it was, I was like, I can tell that this is not real. Do you know what I mean? But then again, for somebody that's really young, that was not really paying attention, they won't notice, and they're ultimately who this film is for. Do you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's not the be all that ends all for this film. But it's a decent enough film. I don't like to spoil my movie. I don't like to spoil films in my movie reviews. However, this could be considered spoilers. So if you don't want any kind of spoilers, then skip this part of the video. But I'm gonna say I found a big sort of flaw in the plot for this film, and I think that's my main issue with this film. Now, towards the end of the film, this guy, he gets given an opportunity to basically do what he's always dreamed of doing, and therefore leave where he's been situated for the past kind of 3, 4, 5 weeks. And he got a lot of hate for it and a lot of stick for considering going back to where he's actually from. And I don't necessarily understand why, because this whole thing that, granted, he's done, out of the goodness of his heart, but the whole thing about looking after the kangaroos and all of this stuff and staying in this sanctuary, setting up this sanctuary and staying in this kind of falling apart house, shelter, hut, in the middle of nowhere, wasn't exactly his choice. And he was kind of thrust upon this lifestyle by this young girl named Charlie, who ultimately actually lied to him and is ultimately the reason that he's here doing what he is doing. So I'd actually argue, why is he getting the short end of the stick when it was her responsibility and her almost wrongdoing by creating up a lie to then make him feel bad for wanting to go back to where he's from? He never wanted to stay here, and he was only going to be here for a week while his car got fixed. She then destroyed his car even more, or stole parts from his car that prevented the car being fixed sooner. So I'd actually argue she's a bit of a tosser. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I would argue that she got more and more unbearable as the film went on. I really didn't like her. And I know that this film is, based around her and the loss of her father, and she struggles to make friends and this sort of stuff. But I thought she just wasn't that nice of a person. And rightly or wrongly, I don't know. But there was something about her. I was like, I don't like you, and I don't like the way you're treating him, nor do I really like the way you're treating your mum. Some of the stuff you've said to your mum isn't that nice. And I get it, you're grieving about, your father that you've lost, but that's still your mum, and it's not her fault. Do you know what I mean? I just didn't like her as a character, and the problem is, this is based on a true story. Whether that is her personality, and if it is, I would say, not somebody that I would socialise with, but it's hard to always judge because it's based on a true story, you don't want to say anything too out of line because ultimately that is a real person that she is portraying. But I didn't like her. I didn't really gel with her, and I thought to begin with, no, you're all right. I thought you were a sweet, innocent girl. And then you just started to really tick off the list, and I was like, nah, I don't actually like you. And yeah, it was just the whole guilt-tripping him at the end of the film, which again, it's hard to comment on because if this is based on a true story, then that's what's happened in real life. But I don't know. Didn't sit right with me, and that's sort of the error and the issue that I found within this film, and that is kind of what let it down, because I was like, this could have been quite nice. And ultimately, it's a really nice thing about saving kangaroos and things like that, and it is quite sweet. But yeah, there was something about her, and I didn't like how he got treated at the end of the film. And I feel like he was kind of forced out of his will to stay. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, that's my hot take. They're my thoughts on Kangaroo. Other than that, though, it is a pretty good film, and it's a nice hour and 40 watch. Times felt a little bit dragged out, but overall, it's a pleasing enough film, and it is exactly what it says on the tin. It's about saving kangaroos and looking after kangaroos and creating this really nice place that kangaroos are looked after and set free into the wild, which is exactly what you want. So yeah, nice film. Before I wrap up though, what do I rate it out of 10? Will it join my DVD collection? I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Like I say, I had a nice enough time with it, but the reason it isn't as high is because of everything I just said about her and the way that he was treated at the end of the film. They're my only flaws with this film. Will it join my collection? Probably not. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't be opposed to watching it again, but I don't feel the need to watch it again anytime soon. So if it does join my collection, it might not be for ages, but I don't have a desire to see this film. It's not one that I've left the cinema going, I must own that. Do you know what I mean? So who knows, possibly, but I can't tell you for definite. But what I can tell you for definite is that is it for my thoughts on Kangaroo in cinemas across the UK. Right now, if you're lucky enough to head to your local cinema as soon as, they may still have some leftover poster and activity sheets. I've not got any to hand, sadly, but I did pick up a couple in Cineworld, whether that's other cinemas as well. But if you're lucky enough and you're quick enough, you might be able to grab some. As always, in the description below is the movie plot, a link to the movie trailer, as well as a link to my movie review playlist. It features every single movie that I've ever done. And other than that, thank you very much for watching. I shall see you in another video, and fingers crossed, another movie review very soon.